My love for the ocean started in the early 1990s when my father shipped me off to the Marshall Islands in the mid-Pacific for a chance to grow up. It worked, or at least we think it did. But in this episode, I've asked Alicia to park the powerboats, put away the speed, for a chance to see how early explorers ventured out. We'll visit part of the Gulf Coast known for their adversity to weather out the worst of storms, the Mississippi coast. It is 80 miles of beaches, shipyards, seafood industry, and some of the most resilient people you'll ever meet. We started our adventure at the Biloxi Maritime and Seafood Industry Museum before jumping aboard the Cashmere to explore the barrier islands of the Mississippi. We'll then leave modern-day sailing behind and sail out on a late 1800 scooter that is part of the Maritime and Seafood Industry Museum. Wrapping our adventure, we tour the crown of the Mississippi coast, the Centennial Plaza, a romantic 50-acre resort located on the coast where we roughed it for 3 nights. We're slowing down these crazy adventures and hoisting ourselves for the more romantic side of boating. So grab your sunglasses, your captain's hat, and your journal, and we'll get ready for the salt water to flow through your veins. We're headed to the ironclad coast of Mississippi. Here we go.
We are Lee and Alicia Ducote.
I'm an author and novelist who likes to write romance and adventure.
And I am an outdoor adventurist who likes to drag Lee along with me.
Together, we travel all over the country and search for those off-the-beaten-path adventures that don't cost a fortune, with the hopes to inspire others to get out and find their own adventure.
So gear up, grab your backpack, and come go with us as we search for that next crazy adventure.
And maybe find a little romance along the way.
Lee and I love to speak at different engagements throughout the year on how adventures and the outdoors are beneficial for the body, mind, and spirit. Just last night, we finished speaking up at an engagement, and we're headed off to the Gulf Coast of Mississippi to embark on 2 different sailing adventures. So come go with us and check this out.
We pulled into Gulfport, Mississippi, and into the Centennial Plaza just in time to check in, throw our gear in the room, and head to the beach before sunset.
All right, there's my beautiful wife. We're heading out on a chilly day to go to the Biloxi Maritime and Seafood Industry Museum, and Alicia's freezing. Are you cold?
It's a little chilly.
All right, we are headed to Biloxi, Mississippi, just down the road from Gulfport, Mississippi, to jump in the museum and learn a little bit about some sailing from the past. So,
Yeah, that's how they got around in the past.
I just have no words for you right now.
You have arrived at your destination on the right. Route guidance is now finished.
There it is.
And we are so well taken care of.
The trip from Gulfport to Biloxi is a scenic 20-minute drive along the Gulf, and you'll find the museum tucked away at the foot of the Biloxi Bay Bridge.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Hey,
Thanks
Corey.
for coming
Nice
in.
to meet you. Thanks for having us today.
We met with Corey Christie, one of the historians at the Maritime and Seafood Museum. The museum was established in 1986 to preserve and interpret the maritime history and the heritage of Biloxi and the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
So this is the Nydia. We built the museum around the boat. So the idea of having this boat as our centerpiece was where the design comes from. But it was built in 1898, so it's 120 some odd years old now. But we had the boat craned in. It was put here on this floor once it was built, and then we built the museum around the boat. This is the automatic shrimp peeling machine. Okay. So this obviously would have changed the industry significantly. So it went from
1979.
children and women peeling shrimp by hand all day to this thing peeling up to 1,000 pounds per hour.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness.
That's a lot
So
of
that's
shrimp.
revolutionary. And it was invented by a 15-year-old kid.
All right, high school students, let that encourage you. You can change an industry right here.
Yeah.
Simple engineering.
Absolutely.
This is a cross-section of a Biloxi schooner. So the Biloxi schooners were the big workhorse, where we were considered the seafood capital of the world by the early 1900s.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. So producing, all the little seafood we have out there, mostly shrimp, oyster, and crab.
Yeah.
But this would have been the big work boat in those late 1800s. I don't think motors really came into play until about 1920. So that's when that would have really changed. A few things that make them unique to Biloxi is you can see how wide and shallow it's sort of built. Because our waters are very shallow here. So whenever you hear Biloxi skiff, Biloxi schooner, catboat, they all have that feature.
Okay.
So they can float here in our shallow water. The Maritime actually owns 2 replicas of what would have been the original schooners. They're out at the pier.
Okay.
Go out and have a sail on them. We do that daily. But they're 70-ish feet long and they can float in 5 foot of water.
Wow.
Which is a pretty unique
That is-
thing, yes.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So what do you do when a hurricane destroys beautiful 100-year-old oak trees? You turn them into beautiful art pieces.
So we keep local artists in the gallery, in the Moran Gallery. This current one is of current shrimpers and shrimp factory work. So these guys are the guys that are still out there doing it.
Oh look, the history of the oyster knife. We have a few of those.
Oh yeah?
Not that old, but we love just going and buying a sack of oysters and just sitting out there and shucking
They're
them.
so good. So when they clean them, they fill these things up. And when they fill that up, it'd be a dime per load, basically, that they
Okay.
get for either shrimp or oyster. They turn that in and get paid a dime for their work. Which you can imagine a kid filling that up with oysters or shrimp, it would take probably half the day. you
Oh
would
my
imagine.
goodness.
So that was a tough work.
Corey was a wealth of knowledge for coastal history, and the Maritime Museum spills out a beautiful display of the past. Somebody's got their left engine a little revved up there, so we'll even that out. We'll be driving around in circles. I can be a boat captain. You can call me Captain. Lee and I wandered throughout the 3 floors of tools of the trade, pristine refurbished boats, and detailed timelines through history. That was before I lost him to the library to research information for a future novel.
I just wrote seafood. I'm hungry.
Welcome to the Maritime and Seafood Industry Museum's Heritage Hall of Fame exhibit. The Heritage Hall of Fame recognizes the contributions of individuals who've shown their dedication to honoring the tradition of the maritime and seafood industry.
Beautiful museum. Guys, if y'all are in Biloxi, Mississippi, Maritime Seafood and Industry Museum is a definite stop. What do you think?
Absolutely. We spent the rest of our day exploring the Gulf Coast and falling in love with Biloxi and Gulfport before heading back to the resort for some much-needed rest.
We had a great night here at the Grand Centennial Hotel, and we are headed out to meet Captain Jim King today, North Star Sailing out of Gulfport, Mississippi. As you can see, it is a gorgeous, gorgeous day out there on the ocean, and Alicia and I are ready to jump aboard and go do this. How do you say it in the South? Sailing? Sailing?
It's not sailing.
Sailing.
Sailing. We're going sailing. If you really want to be Southern Belle about it.
We drove just a couple of miles down the coast to the Gulfport Marina to meet with Jim King, the owner of North Star Sailing Charters. Captain Jim welcomed us aboard and took us through a 5-minute safety talk before shoving off to the Barrier Islands. The trip takes close to 8 hours to circle Ship Island with the right conditions. The Barrier Islands of Mississippi consist of Cat Island, Ship Island, Horn Island, Pettiboy Island, and Dolphin Island. Ship Island is also the home to Fort Massachusetts, a fort that was built and manned by the Union troops during the Civil War. So our film crew normally flies the drone, but since Lee and I were alone on this voyage, he did all the flying. I was supposed to catch the darn thing from the bottom, turn it over to disable the propellers. Well, that's easier said than done from a moving vessel. At least it landed inside the boat.
Yes, I did. Got 10 still? And now we know why I don't throw it on the boat. Did it break?
Once I forgave Lee for making me catch his stupid drone, which will never happen again, we set sail and headed for Ship Island. With the wind in our sails and a steady 3-foot roll, we set the autopilot and relaxed for a journey to an island that was only a speck on the horizon. A little slow for me, but I kept my mouth shut because this was right up Lee's alley.
Yeah,
Enjoy the scenery and pay attention to where we're going.
I'm all about this life.
So here I got.
So I asked Captain Jim to share a little bit about his sailing business.
So your company, North Star, they not only do charters, but you do lessons.
Yeah, when I bought the business, it was a sailing charter company, but he did sailing lessons as well. So I'm affiliated with the American Sailing Association, the ASA. Probably half my business is charters as far as the income, but I do more charters than lessons. So I probably do 150, 180 charters a year. I do 2.5, 4, 6-hour trips. I'm going to say 80% are 2.5-hour trips, maybe 10, 15% are 4-hour trips, and 5% are 6-hour trips. I can only take out 6 people, so it's normally couples or maybe families.
With dolphins riding our bow, we circled the island and headed back to port.
Well, we had some good seas coming out. We're rolling a little bit, and we've merged around Ship Island, and now we are headed back to catch the sunset on the way back and enjoy our time.
There's a bird trying to steal some crackers, so Captain Jim is doing his best to run him off.
The Barrier Islands of Mississippi is a must-see destination. There are ferries that dock out of Biloxi and Gulfport and run several times a day to Ship Island. Bring your beach gear, money for the snack bar, and your favorite book to spend the day away from traffic and technology. If learning how to sail and gaining certification interests you, don't hesitate to call Captain Jim King. He offers classes from someone who has never been on a boat to the most experienced sailors. North Star Sailing Charters runs 2 to 4 hour tours year-round, and we can assure you that it will be the best sailing experience you'll ever have.
So we have had a fantastic time
Indeed.
sailing with Captain Jim on the Kashmir. And tomorrow we are headed back to the Biloxi Maritime and Seafood Industry Museum to get on one of their schooners to learn how they navigated these waters before autopilot.
The following morning, we ate breakfast at the Oasis Grill located in Centennial Plaza, then headed to the docks in Biloxi to catch one of the late 1800s schooners. We were happy that we had first spent time at the museum to learn the history behind the 2 schooners before sailing. The pre-education made the experience greater, knowing this was how fishermen navigated the waterways. A little education for you: the body of water between the beach and the Barrier Islands is the Mississippi Sound, and the Gulf of Mexico starts beyond the south side of the islands. Captain Ron welcomed us aboard, and Lee took no time to ask if he was the same Captain Ron that sailed Martin Short and his family through the islands. He laughed and politely said no.
When we start to put the sails up, we'd love to have you help.
I would love to help.
Be a part of it and feel what it's like. We don't have any of the modern winches and stuff. It's all manual muscle power. After we get out and start sailing,
Where's the mizzen
I always
mast?
like people to come back and take the wheel.
Awesome. Yeah.
I've watched way too much Pirates of the Caribbean. So.
Well, I'm going to start this up, and we're going to leave the dock here and put some sails up.
We set sail with Captain Ron and his crew on the Glen Sweatman, a 70-foot replica of the boats once used to sail and fish the Mississippi Sound.
We're headed out. Normally they take crews of, they need about 6 people to go on this boat to go out, but they are generously taking Alicia and I out on our very own private cruise.
In the late 1800s, there were over 600 boats, much like the Glen Sweatman, but in the 30-foot range. This allowed smaller families to be able to afford building their own boats, and of course, fewer people to run them. The crew didn't waste any time putting Lee and I to work on setting the sails. 3 50-foot sails that took a little muscle and a lot of elbow grease, to be exact. Once they were up and tied off, Captain Ron killed the engines and turned over the helm to none other than Captain Alicia Ducote. Did I mention that Captain Ron was 88 years old with the strength of a man in his 20s? He has spent most of his life sailing the seas throughout many countries. With calm seas and a steady wind, I held the compass at a southern heading of 165 degrees while Captain Ron intrigued us with stories from his youth. This is old school sailing at its finest, and I quickly fell in love with the 70-foot schooner. Vessels like the Glen Sweatman disappeared in the early 1900s when the marine engines were introduced along with the changes in the oyster harvesting laws. I am proud to see organizations like the Maritime Museum spending time to restore the history that once sailed these waters.
We're thankful for the Biloxi Maritime Seafood Industry Museum.
Yes.
And the crew here on one of their schooners. I keep forgetting the name of, sorry.
Hey, what's the name of the schooner, Glen? Glen Sweatman.
Glen Sweatman.
It did take us a few times to remember the name of the schooner, but sailing her that day will never be forgotten. These schooners are available for day sailing or charters. They can accommodate weddings, dockside parties, receptions, birthdays, or other special events. 2-hour educational trips are offered to school groups at special rates. The city of Biloxi traces its beginnings to the arrival of the French in 1699. The city takes great pride in letting visitors feast on its 300-year history. Truly a museum without walls, every inch of Biloxi contains elements of its proud heritage, and none greater than the majesty of these white-winged angels. The next morning marked our last day, and the manager of the Centennial Plaza met Lee and I for a tour of the resort. Hey, Randy.
How you doing?
Hey, thank you for having us, man.
You're welcome.
You're
welcome.
Place.
Great to have you guys. Great to have you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a phenomenal place. How big a property is this?
Well, we have 2 distinct hotels on the property. We have the Oasis Resort, which is where we're located currently.
Mm-hmm.
We have 152 rooms currently in this hotel, in this portion of the property.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Oasis Grill, which serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We are opening our water park in a couple days. It has kid slides, big slides. We have a deep pool, a swim-up bar. They can order drinks, kids' drinks, order a full menu. And
Did I see a lazy river going through there?
We do have a 900-foot lazy river.
All right, so Randy, when we rolled in, y'all have a beautiful display of a fountain out here. There was music going, lights everywhere. The water was dancing with the music.
Yep.
I mean, this is like Las Vegas Strip style fountain right here in your resort.
We do. We do have a nice big fountain. It starts around 5 o'clock. It starts to play with the music really loud. And then when it gets closer to the evening hours and it gets darker, it is lit up and it dances to about a 30-song playlist. So this is the Blue Marlin restaurant. Greatest seafood restaurant on the coast.
Great ocean view right out the windows there.
We do, and we have balconies as well that we're going to try to utilize for outside seating.
So this is the Grand Centennial.
This is the Grand Centennial. So this is my boutique hotel of the property. 63 rooms in this hotel. It is a more of an adult feel. It has the Grand Centennial wine bar that we are standing in right now. Offers great drinks, great tapas style food. The rooms are more an adult getaway on the hotel property. We are open to the families on this side of the property. However, it's a lot more adult style and feel to it.
We had an incredible stay at Centennial Plaza, and Lee and I would strongly recommend staying here when you come to the Mississippi coast. A great adventure includes a trip back in time. The Maritime and Seafood Industry Museum has preserved history well. Don't leave this coast without sailing in the past with Captain Ron and the White Wing schooners. And learn how to navigate through water with only the wind with Jim King and North Star Sailing. The level of adventures are what you plan and how you explore. Sometimes going slow captivates the adventure you're looking for. So get outside and find your adventure.